Now I invite Ambassador Kanwal Sibal to speak. Ambassador Sibal is currently Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. He served as Foreign Secretary to the Government of India from July 2022 to November 2003 to 2002 to 2003. In his diplomatic career spanning more than 4 decades, he was India's ambassador to Turkey, to Russia, to France, and also served as deputy chief of mission in the United States. Uh, he was a member of India's National Security Advisory Board, and he is one of our most prolific uh, writers. And in a new avatar, he has turned out to be a Twitter warrior of sorts. With these words, I invite Ambassador Sibal to address two questions. On the strategic side, do you think the strategic content of the India-US partnership will deepen in days to come? It's a general sort of question where you can bring in some connected issues. And more specifically, uh, is about the possibility, the realistic possibility of Trump, using his clout to end the Ukraine war. And will it lead to US-Russia rapprochement? And will it open new opportunities for India? Over to you, Ambassador Sibal.
Well, I think in your initial comments, you summarized the scenario very well, and Mukesh Aghi has given some very cogent remarks. And broadly, I agree with his optimism, general optimism. I think is well founded. Uh, but as you said, the thing that is the most predictable about Trump is his unpredictability. So he has done certain things which are increasing that sense of uncertainty. For example, began by laying claim to Canada and now to Greenland and to the Panama Canal, uh, totally unmindful of the kind of reaction that there would be in the wider world, because this upends the norms that United States and the West has generally upheld as the core of their foreign policy and the values at the international level. This can have a ripple effect with some consequences for India and for the United States itself. Two, three things. One is that if United States, for security reasons and access to resources, can claim Canada and Greenland or the Panama Canal, then China can use that as an argument to justify its policy in the South China Sea and the East China Sea, and with regard to Taiwan. They need not say this openly, but the underlying message is there that big powers can pursue their vision of their national self-interest by discarding what are accepted as norms of international diplomacy. Secondly, indirectly, this also can be used by the Russians to justify what they are doing in Ukraine, because at the core of it is the whole issue of national security. Not so much as a question of access to resources, because Russia has enormous resources as it is. But nevertheless, if you look at the dialogue on the American side, they have an eye on the resources of Ukraine, um, lithium and this and that. Uh, so in that sense, the resource argument also comes into play indirectly. And then when it comes to China and India, uh, then the cartographic aggression that Trump has engaged in vis-a-vis Greenland and Canada uh, will give some satisfaction to the Chinese that they've been doing it vis-a-vis India, and they can do more of it. What I mean is that certain inhibitions, certain norms of international conduct, uh, they are being now breached, uh, with a kind of diplomacy that is more reminiscent of 19th century power politics than the structures created after the Second World War. This may not have an immediate impact in terms of the ground situation, but these are the kind of seeds that are planted, which then can give arguments to others for their own expansionism. So that is one aspect. The other is with regard to China. There are certain facts on the ground. On the one hand, China, United States is doing as much as it can to deny China access to the most advanced technologies, including some restrictions they have announced yesterday or day before, which from the US point of view and from India's point of view makes a lot of sense, because China has advanced technologically enormously in select areas where they can dominate the global economic exchanges in those areas and make themselves indispensable, and gives them enormous leverage. So if the United States can slow down China's technological rise and advancement, it is helpful. It will give India some time to catch up, especially if we can also simultaneously build up our technology relationship with the United States. And in that context, I must say that the Biden administration and Jake Sullivan in particular have played a remarkable role in trying to build the foundation for cooperation in critical and advanced technologies through the ICET framework. And the fact that he chose to come to India a few days before leaving office and have a discussion on this subject and announce certain things which are very important in terms of removing some of the existing Indian entities from their export control lists, so that cooperation in space as well as in the nuclear domain can be expanded. Though, of course, it does raise the question as to why they didn't do this earlier on, so that the processes involved in getting all these restrictions removed could have been completed before they left office. But nevertheless, they have planted a seed which is bound to flower, because this will be built upon by the incoming administration, because I can't see them stepping back from this, because there's no reason to do so forever. And one can give reasons, but that's a different debate. So on the other hand, he's made some statements on China, which we may not take at face value, but it does show his trend of thinking. He's a bit lavish with his expressions, and he's called Xi an amazing person. And remarkably, he's the only foreign leader who Trump has identified by name as an invitee to his inauguration. He's not done that with anybody else. And then he went on to say that China and United States can together solve all the problems of the world. Now, this may be just a phrase that he threw, and we need not take it seriously. But if there is any thought behind this, then it's a bit of a support for the idea of a G2, that Russia has been weakened. There's no other power that has the stature of China. And therefore, if China and United States got together, they can work cooperatively. So there's a contradiction between all the China hawks that he has in his administration and certain other threats that he's made about imposing tariffs on China. And at the same time, a willingness to cooperate with China and have some kind of a stability in the relationship. So let's see where this goes. And this brings me to another thought, which is that India has to be careful to weigh very thoughtfully as to how much we want to go along with the United States in its anti-China strategy, and how much we want to keep a certain independence of action because China is our direct neighbor. And the immediate and pacing threat, if I can use the American phrase, from China is on the borders of India. And there, we don't expect the United States at all to get involved in our territorial land disputes with China. So therefore, we have to keep this dialogue with China open, which we are maintaining. And if you saw the statement made by Army Chief yesterday or day before, clearly there is a sense that China is a threat. We are conscious of it. We will continue to meet that threat. But we are also looking ahead to continuing a dialogue with China so that we can stabilize our ties. This is a very, very important challenge that we face. With regard to H-1B visas, yes, for a certain category of Indians, and in terms of the politics of it for the government of India, this is a sensitive issue. But at the end of the day, there are two things. This H-1B visa serves how many Indians and what category of Indians? There's absolutely no relationship between these few numbers and the needs of the nation at large. And therefore, if avenues for them to go to United States under the H-1B scheme and then eventually become American citizens or whatever is not something that we need to tear our hair over. And there is also the aspect of brain drain. Of course, this is the question that you create an ecology in your own country where these people don't need to go to the United States, and that they actually serve the technological and other advancement of the country in situ, in India itself, rather than contributing to America's technological progress and primacy at the international level. But this is a important, sensitive political issue, because the people who are most committed to the United States in India are the ones who want to migrate there, who want to go there, who are looking at the H-1B visas, and if the numbers are reduced, then there'll be a bit of a backlash in public opinion that India is talking so much about its bipartisan relationship with the United States, with that bipartisan consensus, 70% approval rating that the Indian public opinion has of Trump, and then they're clamping down on you. People won't look at the fine print there. They will look at the headlines, and it doesn't sort of look good. As for illegal migration, I entirely agree with Mukesh that we should have an open mind, and we should bring them back without any fuss. It is very clear that if they have entered in United States illegally, then they must be sent back after due verification. And we should take this element out of any contentious agenda with the United States. And finally, with regard to the trade issue, I think Mukesh has outlined some very interesting ideas about how the Quad can deepen their economic cooperation because there are existing FTAs and this and that exist, that are there. And you can have a kind of a quadrilateral FTA, though I feel the Biden administration very tentatively moved in that direction through that IPEC or whatever it's called. But we kept out of the trade part of it. So there are certain issues there. So I don't know, given the general antipathy in the Trump administration and Trump himself against these kind of trade deals, it's a very good idea, but let's see if this can be implemented in any foreseeable future. And finally, make America great again. I think America is great. I mean, so it remains the preeminent power. Surely, if China has come up and is challenging the United States, but there is a lot of views, a lot of literature which says that, look, China will never be able to surpass the United States. China is slowing down, and they give you some very cogent arguments to justify this. So what does it mean, make America great again? Does this mean precisely what Trump is doing now? Lay claims to Canada, lay claims to Greenland, lay claims to Panama, and tomorrow do something else. That greatness should not be translated into a desire to be a preeminent, dominant power. Finally, I'm taking too long, but the Ukraine question you asked, but that's very important. That is very key to, it's a key to so many things: US, Europe, US, Global South, Russia, Global South, India, etc., etc. Now, there, the initial sounds that are coming from the United States, signals that are coming from the United States, and Trump himself wants to resolve this issue, are positive. And there is some kind of a back channel conversation going on, because they've gone ahead and even talked about a potential meeting between Trump and Putin, which will require a lot of preparation. On the Russian side, they have said they're open to a conversation with Trump and to a meeting with Trump, though at the same time, if you hear Lavrov or Medvedev, they're very cautious in their assessments about the real possibility of a real breakthrough because of the underlying total difference in positions on both sides. Two things in this regard. One is that for Russia, two things are extremely important: retain the territory that they have got, and also make sure that there is a credible agreement on long-term agreement on Ukraine not joining NATO, and that should be supported by some kind of a mechanism which makes it impossible to violate that agreement. But on the other hand, if the United States were to cede these two on these 2 points to Russia, then Russia has won, and United States, it will be presented as some kind of a geopolitical strategic setback to United States and to Trump, and how the Trump administration would want to play that, I can't say. And Europe will be left in a lurch. They won't know what to do. They've totally committed themselves to the American position, and the the irony is that they have a Russian threat on the east, and now they have a U.S. threat on the west, and they don't know what to do. And that is why their reactions to on Trump's claim to territory that belongs to a EU member state is the reactions are very muted. Anyway, one can go on, and I would like to continue. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Ambassador Sibal, for that very nuanced, big picture view and the finer points, and your point about not to make too much of H-1B visa. Now, that's something we need to discuss a lot, because obviously it's going to be a big ticket media optics issue, but yes, you're very right in striking that cautionary note.